Hello, this is Randall Craig here. Today we're going to be talking about two things, 4 career paths and 4 end results. You may not have been thinking of your career path quite this way before, but I'd like you to think about it this way because it'll make a real difference over time. Typically, people think about a corporate career path where you're working for a large organization, or perhaps one in consulting where you might go from company to company teaching them how to do a particular thing that they don't know how. Some people, on the other hand, choose an entrepreneurial path. An entrepreneurial path is one where you start something of your own, or perhaps intrapreneurial, where you are in charge of starting something within the confines of an organization. I'd like to talk about a fourth path that maybe you hadn't considered before, and that's a portfolio career. Now, in a portfolio career, it's one where you do a number of small things, perhaps for very different things, and together they make a full-time job. For example, in my case, I run Pine Tree Advisors. That takes about half of my time. The other half of my time is spent speaking to large groups as a professional speaker. I also spend time at the School of Business 1 day a week. I do a few other things as well, but you get the idea that all of these things together make for one job. The thing is for somebody like me, I need that diversity, and that might be you too. Now, that might be a way of thinking of 4 different paths, but how do you actually get to one of these 4, or 5, or 6, or however many that you like? The typical way to go through is through a leadership route. You start at the bottom, you work yourself up, eventually you're in charge of something. That's fairly traditional, and that might be most comfortable for many people. Certainly your grandparents, that was about the only way that you can get up to the top, if that's what your objective was. The second way, and this is just as valid an end result path, is to become an expert. In this particular case, you develop a deeper professional knowledge in your area of expertise. Many people who are financial analysts, for example, have no desire to leave that field and move, quote, up the ranks into management. Same thing with successful people in sales. Often they love the thrill of a sale, but going into sales management takes them away from something they love most. Becoming an expert and developing that deeper sense of expertise is what makes you really second to none in your particular area. Now there's 2 other paths, 2 other end results I should say, that might also be of interest to you, and certainly as you're moving along your career you should consider. One is a generalist, and a generalist is somebody whose greatest joy is developing and broadening their knowledge over the time. And as they understand how different bits and pieces fit together, that's the value that they add. Because they're able to see things from all these different perspectives, they understand the impact of one initiative or program on another, or in different stakeholder groups. They can add an awful lot more value than, say, a leader or an expert. And finally, the 4th group is what I call the transitionists. These are folks who constantly reinvent themselves, doing different things every 3-5 years or so. Now, in this particular career path, what you get value from is bringing a completely different perspective on the problem of the day. If, for example, you spent your entire career in finance, and then you went into marketing, gee, that financial acumen that you bring is something that somebody who went through marketing just wouldn't have. On the other hand, if you were in marketing and then you moved over to finance or sales or operations, you would bring a particular marketing perspective that nobody else who went through the traditional routes would have. So, there you have it. Which one are you? It could be that you change from one to one as you discover where your strengths are and what you enjoy doing. So, 4 paths, 4 end results. Listen, whatever you choose to do, there's no wrong answer. But making sure that at least you're mindful of the alternatives is half of what you want to do. This is Randall Craig for Pine Tree Brain Trust and Make It Happen Tip Sheet. I hope you enjoyed this session.